Hey guys, and welcome back to my React course. This is part 5, and in this part, we will get started with buttons in React. There are many use cases for buttons when creating a website. Here are a few examples. Now, let's look at how to create a button. So open up Visual Studio Code and go back to the project we created in the previous parts. That is my first React app. Then open firstcomponent.js inside the components folder. So I have that open right now. As you can see, we created a simple button component in part 4, but there's more you can do with these buttons. So right here, as you can see, this is the default button component. But you can customize this a lot, and we're actually going to do that later too. Some properties you can define while using these buttons are class name, which we've already used here. So class name equals button. And that is basically for the CSS. So right now, if we go to the CSS file inside the components folder again, firstcomponent.css, as you can see, we have this button right here, and these are the styles for that button. There's also a property called onClick. We haven't used that over here, and that basically handles the function when you click the button. So right now, when we click this button, nothing happens. And we'll actually get more into that in another video because it's a bit more advanced. In this video, I will show you how to create a template for the buttons we use in order to reuse them without duplicating our code. So first, we need to create a new file inside the components folder. So on the left, right-click the components folder and click new file. We can simply call this file button.js, short for JavaScript. Okay, so first, we're going to start off by importing React. So import space capital R React from double or single quotes React, enter. Next, we're gonna define an array for the styles for these buttons. So anytime you want to add a style, you're just gonna add it to this array. So const, short for constant, space styles, all lowercase, equals. This is an array, so it has to be square brackets, and then single or double quotes, btn, short for button, primary. btn dash primary. You can call these styles whatever you want. And then comma. So just like that, these are different styles or different items inside that array. Next, we're going to create a btn. I'm going to have a red button. And then we'll also have a btn, let's say blue. That's it for the array. So square brackets, items inside it, double or single quotes, and then comma to separate those items. And then below that, on line 5, export const button. This is going to create a functional component that we can reuse in any other component we want. And we're actually going to reuse that in the first component. We'll get into that later. And then export constant button equals parentheses, inside the parentheses, curly braces. These are the items, so just type children on click and button style. Type it exactly like this and separate them using commas. These are the properties. Okay, so we're going to reuse these properties and define them each time. And then outside the parentheses, equal sign, greater than a sign, makes a arrow. And then curly brackets again. Inside that, const check button style. Check button style. What does this do? It's in the name. It checks for the button style. So the one we give it over here, it checks if it's in the array we give it. If it is, then that's good, but if it isn't, we'll set it to blank. So let's just create that logic. So equals inside the styles array, check if it includes the button style. We give it over here. If it does, then that's good. If it doesn't, then first you have to add a question mark, make it an if statement. If it does, good. If it doesn't, then button style, colon, null. If it doesn't, if it isn't inside this array, then it sets it to null, so it doesn't give us any errors. So that's it for that logic. And then let's just simply return parentheses. This is what's actually going to be on the screen. What do we want? We want a button component or button tag. And as I said, the children is the text. So children inside that. And of course, it's a dynamic value. It's not going to type children. It's going to type what's inside it. So anything inside it, it's going to count as a text. And then before the closing tag, class name for the CSS, we're not going to type something inside double or single quotes. It's going to be another dynamic value, so curly brackets. This one is going to be the check button style. And then on click, we're not going to use on click in this video, but we're still going to define it for other videos so it's easier. So again, this isn't a normal value, it's a dynamic value. And that is the on click function we give it over here. So that's basically it. We can save this file. And now let's create a CSS file. So again, on the left, components, right click it, new file, button, same name, .css. So first, period, btn, short for button, dash primary. Let's do the primary one first. Okay, so the normal buttons we use have an outline and a border, and we want to clear those. So outline equals none, border equals none. We don't want that in our one, so we want to customize this a lot. And first, we're going to do that by clearing the outline and the border. And then background color. Background color, I have this black color over here. It's between gray and black. Just make sure you have the hashtag sign before it, so it counts as a color. Between blue, white, and black. You can copy this if you want. 1D252A. That's the background color. The normal color, that is the text color, we want it to be white. And that is basically FFFFFF. That's the white. We don't want it to be a full square shape. We want to round the corners a bit, and that is by changing the border radius. It changes the corners, and it makes them rounded based on the value you give it. So the higher the value, the more round, the more of a round shape it is. We don't want it a full circle or too round. 10 pixels should do the job. And then the font size. This changes the size of the font. 24 pixels should be good. And that's it for now. And copy this and change it to red and BTN blue. And we're not going to keep the same values because that doesn't make sense. We're going to change the background color. So for the red, have this red color. It's between pinkish red, F00946. For the blue, it's this dark blue color, 183153. Now let's file, save this, and before doing anything else, go back to the button.js and make sure you import it. So we haven't imported the CSS, it's not going to know what's the style. So on the top, below React, import, double or single quotes, period slash button.css. So period slash means inside this component folder. So inside this folder, go to button.css, import that. Again on the top file and save. Now we can go back to first component.js on the left. And instead of this normal button component, we can delete this create another one. It's going to be capital B. That's the customized one. And as you can see, it auto imports this for us. So on the top, there's nothing. Now, import button from button. So if yours does not auto import, just copy this line. It's simply import, curly braces, button inside it, B capital from, again, B capital, period slash B capital. Okay, button, closing tag. We want the text to be get started. And inside it, what do we give it? We can do on click, but we're not going to do that yet. What we are going to do is the button style. Let's say it's BTN primary for now. We want it black, and then we can change that. File, save. Now we have to run this. So we go to terminal on the top, new terminal. It's npm space start. This is going to open a new local server in your default browser. So as you can see, we have the button right over here. If we click it, nothing happens, and it's not in the right place, as you can see. Because if we go back, go to firstcomponent.css, you can see all of this. We have the button, and then we have these margins. And we didn't define that for the button. So go back to button.css, just copy these lines, go back to button.css, and just paste that. And paste that for the other ones too. So just like that. So margin top is 30 pixels, margin left is 160 pixels. File, save. Now, as you can see, it's in the right spot, but the font text is too close to the border, and we can change that by not using margin, because margin's on the outside, and what's on the inside, it's called padding. Padding is the space between the text and the border. Padding, you can do one value does it for all, let's say 10 pixels. So now we're going to have 10 pixels between all. And if you want two different values for horizontal and vertical, you can just give it two values. Let's say you want 10 pixels for horizontal and you want, let's say, 24 pixels for vertical. Save it again. Now it looks much better. And if we go on it, it doesn't feel like a button, or it doesn't feel like something that is clickable. That is because every single time, you can look at the cursor right now. This is the normal cursor. This is for when you're typing something. And when something is clickable, it's usually this cursor right here, the hand cursor. So what we can do to make it feel more like clickable, we can do cursor equals pointer. Now if we save it, when we hover over it, right away it changes the cursor for us. And that makes it feel like it's clickable. But when we click on it, nothing will happen. And that is because we haven't defined an on-click function yet. We'll do that in the next video. Okay, so now if we go back to firstcomponent.js on the left, we can change the button style from BTN primary to red. And before that, actually, go back to the CSS file. And for the padding and the cursor, just copy that. We didn't do it for the other one, so it looks better. Just like that. So every single one of the styles should have these. The only thing that should change is the background color. Blue is this color, red is this color, and black is this color. Even the font text color is the same. Okay, so now, file, save, go back to firstcomponent.js, btn red. Let's say we want it red. Save that. It's going to turn to red. You can change it to blue, btn-blue. It's not going to be clear to see because the background's also blue, but you're still going to see it because it's way, a bit darker. The red one looks the best on the blue color, blue background, so I'm just going to keep it red. So that'll be it for this video. If you learned something, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you next time. Bye.